A woman
Tonight, in part 2 of our series looking at Who's Bringing Up Baby, Barb Love looks at the effect of substitute care on babies, toddlers, and preschoolers.
Go ahead and take her out.
The birds are singing when little Sean Donnelly rolls into his babysitter's home every morning at 7:15. It's early for a little guy to be out, but he's used to it. It's a ritual started when Sean was 6 weeks old, and Mom Marie went back to work.
I, of course missed him, but I've always worked, and I enjoy my work, and it was time for me to go back, and I knew it was, and I knew Denise was very competent, and I felt very secure with leaving him with her.
Marie says because of that security, she doesn't think leaving Sean with licensed sitter Denise Moore will be bad for him, and she may be right. Researchers say for the most part, with quality care, children whose moms work don't develop any differently than their stay-at-home counterparts, emotionally or intellectually.
There are two mediating factors: the quality of the situation. Obviously, a poor babysitter, a poor daycare center isn't going to do a good job. Also, the mother's attitude toward her work is important. If she really doesn't want to work and she puts her child in with the babysitter, with the daycare, then it's going to come across to the child that she's not happy with that situation.
And in some situations, kids in substitute care can even profit.
They are more independent usually, and have more experience in social interaction skills than a child who has been in a smaller group setting.
On the negative side, there are studies showing those groups spread more colds, flu, and coughs among their members, and there is no guarantee that substitute care will be of a quality nature. In addition, there are those concerned that a bond between mother and child will be broken, despite the fact that the bulk of research shows no such effects, and daycare kids and moms deny it.
Yes, I'm fresher seeing them at 4 o'clock now than I was when I stayed home.
I've been here for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years.
What do you think about being here?
I think it's kind of fun.
And even daycare providers say they have no delusions about who is number one.
We can't ever replace mom and dad. Mom and dad and how they teach their children to be good children, to be thoughtful of other people, other adults, other children. That's something mom and dad, and only mom and dad, can do.
But what can mom and dad do to ensure they find the quality care for their kids that makes the difference? Tomorrow, a look at the options available. Barb Love for the news, Channel 6.
Taxes, housing, and food in family budgets. But Barb Love reports finding suitable daycare may be more difficult than paying for it in part 3 of Who's Bringing Up Baby.
Life is not a dream for working mothers trying to find quality care for their children. For one mother, it turned into a nightmare.
Before I even found daycare, I almost quit my job.
Mimi Carnell picks her 2 sons up in a Northside daycare center where her search for help ended. But she's not the only mother who works outside the home who discovers the real job is finding suitable daycare in a convenient location. Indianapolis Mayor William Hudnut recently asked the Downtown Commission to find a way to meet a high demand for daycare downtown.
We'll have 2 or 3 different approaches to it. In terms of, first, the companies themselves and what they might do. Secondly, additional facilities that might be provided by an existing agency. And third, possibly some new daycare center or centers that...
While there are 500 licensed daycare centers in Indiana, the most common setting for substitute care is a daycare home. 1,500 are licensed for sitters to accept 6 to 10 children. But state officials say the number of facilities simply isn't keeping up with the number of women going back to work. And problems locating daycare for children can be even tougher when they are infants, as Marie Donnelly found out when her son Sean was 6 weeks old.
I had a lot of trouble getting a sitter to take a 6-week-old baby since I wanted to return to work at the age of 6 weeks. It was very hard to find a sitter that would take him.
Allison Davis is trying to take up the slack with a referral service. She started it a year ago when she had trouble finding care for her daughter. And business is booming.
Well, I've got about 300 sitters registered, and I bet I place like 10 to 15 a week into the homes.
Experts say very young babies do the best in a one-on-one situation with a sitter at home, but that can be the most expensive and most elusive of all arrangements.
As soon as I find a good quality sitter that calls my service looking for a job, I place them right away. The demand is very great for sitters to come into the home because it's more convenient for the parents.
In all three cases, state regulation is minimal, but there are some guidelines that may help parents rest easier with their choice of daycare. A look at those tomorrow. Barb Love for the News, Channel 6.
Series, Barb Love has some advice that may help you decide whether the person who is bringing a baby in your absence is doing so correctly.
Like somebody killed me and it was one of these guys.
Growing numbers of working mothers say they are waging their own war against substandard daycare. They aren't packing guns, but knowledge.
I called lots of people and talked, I think it was seemed like it was 20. I mean, it was a lot of people. I spent a couple weeks doing it.
And it's no wonder, since state regulations about daycare apply mainly to physical plant and operators requirements. They say little about just what a child is to do during the 8 hours mom isn't around.
We agree that there could be an area there of questioning. The purpose of standards, as far as we are concerned, is to establish a plateau from which the facility builds.
But even on top of that, parents should expect more in terms of the educational program.
Women can add to their arsenal with a pamphlet free for the asking from the Indianapolis Day Nursery Association. It has guidelines on how to distinguish quality care. Among them, once parents see a facility is clean and safe, they should look next at how caregivers relate to children.
They're substitute, lovers and caregivers, and so you have to be able to see that the kids like the people they're with and that the people like the kids.
Parents should also know how kids are to be disciplined. Corporal punishment is against the law in Indiana. They should ask, too, who will be in contact with their children daily. Also, in order, a rundown of the daily schedule.
That there are some academic components as well as social components, not overly academic and not just free play all the time.
In a quality center, experts say parents should feel welcome and even make surprise visits.
They share the learning back and forth, and oftentimes the center may be able to provide some experiences that the parent would not have time to do.
To aid in the fight for quality care, the National Association for the Education of Young Children is setting up its own accreditation process. But in the meantime, it's still up to mom and dad to determine quality care. Despite their troubles, working women are here to stay, and in increasing numbers. And that means alternatives for child care and acceptance will likely grow too.
Give me a hug. I love you.
Barb Love for the News, Channel 6.
By the way, if you would like a copy of the Child Care Center checklist, you can write the Day Nursery Association at 615 North Alabama, or you can call them.
And here you can take a step back, actually, into Indiana farming past. You can visit a lot of different people out here. This is the potter working on. You can actually see some of the things that they did in the 1800s. On display, of course, are not only the potter's tools, but dozens of historic farming tools over here. There's a coppersmith. There's a blacksmith over here. In addition to that, there are all sorts of antique tractors. There's also entertainment and a few crafts you can buy. Nice part about all this is it's free. And we're going to explore back into this area. There's a lot of surprises back here. We're going to do that in this half hour. But before we do that, we want to go back to the news center and get caught up on today's news.
But those doing the counting this year say it's really not all that bad. It's just that the people who did the counting before did it wrong. The first nights of this year's state fair were hot, with temperatures in the 90s, so only 25,000 people showed up. But compare that to last year's 82,000 people on preview night, and then 171,000 by the end of the first day. Is there really that much difference? Well, no, says this year's communications director at the fair. They're just more honest about the figures this year.
They feel that the figures in previous years perhaps were inflated. We've gone to strictly a hard ticket system.
So this year, each paid admission is counted as one. All of last year's figure keepers are gone now, but this year's people say last year they counted not only paid admission, but your car counted as one. And all children under 12 who got in free were counted. And last year they counted the police, and they counted the exhibitors, and they counted the carnival workers. And they must have counted other things too, say this year's fair people. Nonetheless, this year's new manager says the big change they're looking at is moving the fair date to earlier in the summer to boost the attendance.
Most of the schools started Monday or Tuesday of this last week in the area, and we've got to take a look at our dates very seriously.
There may be other changes coming in future years of the Indiana State Fair, and they may involve politics. You see, next year we elect a new governor, and the governor appoints several members of the Fair Board, and it is the Fair Board that controls the Indiana State Fair.
The physical aspect of the fairgrounds will be improved in the future through a joint effort between the public and private sector.
I'd like to open up the process to include ordinary Hoosiers, and not just those who are politically connected. State Fair belongs to all of our people, and I think that all of us ought to have a chance to participate.
So whatever you think of this year's fair, maybe this would be a good year and a good time to drop off your suggestions in the suggestion box, wherever that might be, because no matter what happens, it does look like there will be a few changes at next year's fair. And speaking of changes, there's something new here at the fair this year, and quite a few people are leaving the Indiana State Fair with money that they never thought they had in the first place. The Attorney General's office has set up a booth at the Exposition Hall. In an instant, you can find out if you have unclaimed money or property anywhere within the state. A computer is hooked up to the main office of the Unclaimed Property Division of the Attorney General's office. Now, they say the booth averages about 300 visitors a day, and according to the Attorney General, the success rate has been high.
Probably 400 people that have had hits. In other words, possibilities that they or their relatives will receive money from our office as a result of their participation in the program here at the State Fair.
The computer checks for unclaimed bank accounts, stocks, life insurance, other property you might have. Now, this is the first year the office has been used here at the fair with a computer hooked up to the Attorney General's office. Kim?
All right, we're back in the Pioneer Village, and you know, there is nothing like getting something for free. And one of the best free attractions happens out here on Sunday, and you're hearing part of it right now. It's the banjo contest and the old-time fiddlers contest. Brant Smith, those are your fingers. You don't look like an old-time anything.
Well, I've been playing banjo for, about 10 years now, I guess.
So you're not new at it, certainly.
No, not real new. I guess I've been a spectator at the banjo contest for about 4 or 5 years and participated for about 3.
All right, what's the competition like?
Well, it can range from a lot of real good pickers to just a lot of local pickers who haven't had a lot of experience. You never know.
All right. Well, with me now is Kevin Donnelly also. He's a judge of the competition. Kevin, what are you looking for when they're out there playing?
Well, I'm looking for good timing, whether they're in tune, the difficulty of the song they're playing, their overall mastery of the instrument, and their rhythm, harmony, etc.
Is it too late to sign up? You know, a lot of folks out there sometimes maybe just sit around and play and say, hey, maybe it's a good time to figure out how good I am.
Right. They do have an official deadline, but we are in dire need of junior contestants for the banjo contest. There are none right now.
All right.
So if somebody would show up at the last minute, great.
What's on the line? Any money?
First place in the banjo and the fiddle contest is $250. There are 5 places. Fifth place is $50. So it's, it ranges in between. And the junior division, first place in each category is $50.
That's not slim
Not
pickings.
bad.
Now we're going to get a sample of this show. Now Brett has agreed to play for us. So let's take a listen.
John Woodard is over there on the banjo, and we'll meet him in just a second. You guys are judges in this, so you won't be playing yourself.
Right.
What will you look for in the people that risk it all and go out there and play in the contest?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say we have a fiddle, banjo, and guitar contest. This is the first year for the guitar contest. The fiddle and banjo contests have been around for quite a while. But we're looking for people that are in tune and have good timing, good authority over their instrument.
Are you a fiddler yourself, or do you like the banjo?
I play banjo and guitar and mandolin, bass guitar.
How many people will be competing then this weekend?
Well, as of last week, we had 37 entrants for the fiddle contest, 22 entrants for the banjo, and 11 for the guitar.
So out of those 37 or 50, 60 people, you'll have 500 in the audience watching them?
Probably at least.
Okay, let's, John, we'll let you take it away here. You do the picking and we'll do the grinning from over here, all right? Thank you to you, John, Kevin. Nice to meet you. Best of luck. And that's at the 4-H Exhibit Hall at 1 o'clock this Saturday. And when we come back to the State Fair, Angela Kane will have a report on Indiana's natural resources. There he sits. He's a tired man.
Marsh people make a difference.
The boys up left to see what your sport and they just ran away with the spoon. Megan. Oh, Megan, looking spoons.